I met this man's staff at the cigar event in Newport Beach, sponsored by Enthusiast Report. We are here talking to Anto Mahroukian. Forgive me if my Armenian is not that good, of JM Tobacco. It is a pleasure to see you and chat with you about your cigar company.
Thank you so much, Robert. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah. The beautiful thing about cigars is that it always has this ebb and flow in the culture. Like, in the old days, if you talked about it, oh, the cigar chompers, it was the fat cats that were always smoking the cigars, kind of looking down on society. Then it became culturally relevant again in the 90s, where it became this really like classy thing. Then it kind of, fell away to the side. But there's always been this cigar culture that's been floating around. How do you see it as not only as a cigar producer, but as someone that also partakes in smoking tobacco? The difference between what is now considered, again, something that's more classy with cigar smoke versus something that is considered disgusting with cigarette smoke.
Oh yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even compare the two with cigarettes and cigars. Definitely something that you share with somebody. It's something that you're bonding with somebody over. It's a what I call it is something like it's a camaraderie. You sit around with family, friends. You're dedicating about an hour of your time. Great conversation, great cigars, and maybe paired with a few drinks. This definitely is not what in back in the days is what your grandfather or older men used to smoke, or even like mobsters in the movie. Like you said, it became streamlined and available to the public in the mid 90s with the cigar boom, and everybody from younger adults to women were smoking cigars. So we're kind of still riding that wave, and the future looks bright.
I remember, I had my first cigar when I was 17. Statute of limitations is over, so sorry, Uncle Sam. Uh, And the big advertisement back then, everything was like, it's a Dominican cigar, but it's Cuban seed. It's a Nicaraguan
Mm,
cigar, but it's Cuban seed. It's a Honduran cigar, but it was Cuban seed. So Cuban
yeah.
seed was the selling point because we couldn't get Cuban cigars in the United States. Um,
Yes.
that tagline of Cuban seed has kind of fallen off because Nicaragua, Honduras, and the Dominican Republic have really stepped up their game in cigar production in comparison to, the forbidden fruit of Cuba. How have you seen that evolution coming in, especially with JM Tobacco and where you guys are today? Because you started in 1996.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Look, Cuba will always be known as where cigars were born, let's say. And with the embargo and not being able to get Cuban cigars, it's supply and demand. If you can't get it, you want it more. So Cuban seed was kind of a way to, and it was actually Cuban seed. It was seeds brought from Cuba and into the new world of Dominican and Nicaragua, Honduras, like you said, and grown in those countries. Um, so, it will forever be something that was kind of born in Cuba and Havana, but Dominican is known as the cigar country of the world, and beautiful cigars are being out from there.
Now, we're a kindred spirit. We're related through history. You're Armenian, I'm Assyrian. We have
Yep.
this long crossover culture between our two peoples.
Very much.
And the ingenuity of Armenian people coming to America and not just sticking to the five majors that we have of, doctor, lawyer, engineer, business, and shame of the family. How did you, and you started this with your father, decide to go into the cigar business? I mean, this started in 1996.
Yeah.
How did you and your dad sit down and go, all right, we need to be a part of this?
Yeah. It kind of wasn't like that. He really didn't consult me in that sense. I was in 1995 when we this kind of became an idea. I was 17 years old, fresh out of high school. Um, it all started when I bought my father a birthday present in 1994, November of 94. On his birthday, I bought him a couple of cigars and he loved it. And he said, buy me this box. I want to go buy one. And I told him, I said, okay, here you go. He looked it up, $20 a cigar, $500 a box. He was out, you couldn't believe it. And being an entrepreneur, a manufacturer, my dad, he's in the jewelry business back then. Still has ties in the jewelry business. He had a factory in Dominican Republic manufacturing rope chain jewelry in the mid 90s. So early 90s started the factory, called up his factory manager. He said, I'm sending you some samples. Find me a local manufacturer who can make cigars for us. He did. We ordered 10,000 cigars, and he famously said, if I can't sell any, we'll have cigars for the rest of our lives. And at that point, Espanola Cigars was born. It was a Connecticut wrapper. It was available in two sizes back then, a Toro and a Churchill. And I remember him coming up to me. I was working, after school summer job at his jewelry factory in Dominican Republic. I mean, I'm sorry, in Los Angeles. And he comes up to me. He said, "Hey, I ordered 10,000 cigars. Come up with a brand name." I was like, "Okay." Did a little history digging of Dominican Republic, the island of Hispaniola. Haiti and Dominican are neighbors on one island, La Isla Española. And I figured, let's go ahead and use the name Española as a brand name. We looked it up, it was available, and the rest is history, man. This is now 30 years later. Next year, we'll be celebrating our 30th year in the business. I basically grew up in this business from 17 to now 47 years old. I would say definitely wet behind the ears back in the day. I remember my first trip to Dominican Republic. I get picked up by my dad's brother, uncle, who was my dad's brother, my uncle, who was running the factory in Dominican Republic. And I remember him picking me up and on our way to the factory, pulling over, grabbing a Presidente beer in a brown bag. Uh, 18 years old, I'm like, man, I can get used to this. Show up at the factory, walk into the factory, the smell of tobacco just hits you right in the face. And I mean, I was like wide-eyed and surprised and unbelievable the way that this product goes from a seed that's grown in the ground to a final product of a cigar, which absolutely was surprising.
Yeah. And to sit here almost 30 years later, what's the 30th celebration going to look like?
Oh, we have an Espanola Aniversario. Yeah, the blend is already in the works. Production is on its way for that. After it gets made, it's going to sit for 6 months, and we're looking at a PCA 2026 release at New Orleans for a Toro size and a Lancero. Lancero seems like a really popular cigar nowadays, 7 by 38. We're going to have two blends in the Anniversario, a Maduro blend and a Habano blend.
You take us through the process because some people might not realize how the blending goes and how you decide what's going to be wrapped as a Maduro or as a Connecticut and back and forth. You know, with wine, there's a certain way to ferment it. With whiskey and the barrels that you're using and how to age it, there's multiple processes. How do
Yeah.
you create a blend with tobacco? Is it similar to the liquor and spirits, or is it a totally different process?
Oh, it's totally different. It all starts with the seed. By the time you get a plantation going of tobacco, you've failed 3 to 4 times. And what I mean by failed is some of the seeds that you use aren't that great. So when you find a plantation or a crop that is working really well for you, you go ahead and let that one of the plants mature so it flowers, and you take the rest of the seeds from that successful growth. And we started growing tobacco in 2010, and it took us about 4 to 5 years before we had a successful crop. So that seed is very important. Take those seeds and you have your baby plants. So then you have a 6 month growing period of tobacco. After that 6 month growing period of tobacco, the leaves get picked and get hanged in a curing barn. And we use a fire curing method of turning the tobacco from green to brown and to the desired color that we'd like. And then after those are in the curing barns for a period of time, they get picked, they get put in a bunches, And what I call bunches are a pile of tobacco that sits on a pallet or a plastic sheet, and your fermentation process starts then. We ferment with a mixture of wine, lime, different liquids to get the taste that we want. So fermentation process is done by heat. So the center of that pile is really, really warm. We have thermometers that go into the middle of those piles, and those piles get turned every now and then so that the middle goes to the back and out, and the outside goes back inside. So that fermentation process is really, really important for us. Over fermented, you can lose tobacco. Under fermented, it's not the quality and the flavor that you want it to be. So those guys are masters at their craft. They do a phenomenal job. I can't even pretend to know exactly how they do it. I know the process, but they know by feel and touch and by sight that the tobacco is ready. So that's fermentation process. After fermentation, it goes into a curing stage, and after curing, and that period of curing can be anywhere from 5, 10, 15 years. Uh, so it's amazing that, from one seed to a cigar, you're looking at 7 minimum, 10 plus years. You could go less than 7, but we don't like to do that.
Right.
And so from a seed to cigar, like I said, 7 to 10 years is just outrageous. And the number of hands that the tobacco touches is just like, mind blowing. You get like 400 to 500 people touching this thing from seed to cigar, and it's a group effort, and it's all done by the wonderful team we have in Mexico who grow our tobacco, and Dominican Republic who cure and roll our cigars.
And do you know right off the bat if it's going to be, say, a Churchill or a Torpedo or any of the other different varying sizes within it and styles of cigars? Like this type of tobacco or this type of fermentation would fit better as a Churchill, or this type of fermentation will fit
Yeah,
as a shorter cigar.
great question. Yeah, absolutely. So that process of determining blends doesn't really matter for size. What matters for size is the size of the wrapper itself. For example, if we have a shorter wrapper, those are used for Coronas and Robustos. If we have a bigger wrapper, those are used for our thicker gauges like our Double Toros, Gordos, or Churchill cigars. But blend is kind of calculated by the filler, binder, and the wrapper. The filler, we have different fillers we use, and we use a percentage of those fillers. For example, a ligero or a seco cubano can be combined 50-50, 75-25, and then you introduce a third tobacco in the filler, like some San Andres, and then you have a percentage of 33-33-33, or 50-20-30. And what we do is I try to stay out of the blending process. I tell my master blenders exactly what I'm looking for, and they send me 3 or 4 samples. Anything more than that, I can get overwhelmed with samples and the difference between this one and that one. So I try to stick to like 3 or 4 different blends on a particular blend. And of course, the binder and the wrapper make all the difference in the flavor of the cigar. Some say up to 70% of the flavor comes from the wrapper.
Wow. So to put it in simpler terms for people that aren't figuring out, well, let's equate it to this. It's like you're the engineer, coming up with the design and the desire of what you want. You send it to the master blender, who's the mechanic, to let you know if we can build this motor and it'll be functional, or there's no way this is actually going to work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I'll be telling them that, hey, I want to use a complex binder and a filler and a wrapper, and they'll be like, no, you can't do, this wrapper with that wrapper, or a San Andreas wrapper with a San Andreas binder. It's not going to work, So that's their input. And as far as coming out with the complexity of the blends, like I said, I leave it up to them. They send me some samples, and we decide on which one to go with at that point.
As someone that's been smoking cigars since I was 17, you and I are the same age. We both graduated at the same time. When you sit there and you can't get a draw on a cigar, either it's wrapped too tightly or just something's wrong, you just can't get that draw. Or what's even worse sometimes is you'll be smoking the cigar, but it burns through. It doesn't actually reduce the size of the wrapper with the tobacco as it goes down. How do you avoid those pitfalls in your cigars and when people are smoking them and actually come across something like that?
Yeah, great question. I mean, we have a quality control team that goes through several standards and several steps. We have a tobacco manager who goes through every single cigar. It's by touch and feel. When a cigar runs, that means there's like a dead spot, not enough tobacco in that. So that goes to the pile of seconds. We have a draw tester that draws each cigar before it goes out. So different quality control levels, and also there's a quality control for visuals, the wrapper, if it's got spots on it, or if it's not uh, clean enough, there's a thick stem on there. So we do have quality control steps in order for those measures to not be there. Once in a while, this is a handcrafted product. You will find something that either runs one way or the other, or for some reason it doesn't draw well. Cigars, when they're packed too tight, these are wet. The cigars are wet. After they are rolled, it needs to be aged for 3 to 6 months. And what happens during that process is the tobacco kind of expands. And if it's rolled too tight, that thing is going to kind of crack and explode almost. And also you're not going to get the correct draw. We've been doing this a long time. We've learned the hard way. In the beginning, when in the mid 90s, uh, cigar rollers were hard to come by because cigars were in such demand. We had to train internally, and we were getting inferior cigars where they just weren't up to the standards that we had set. Like I said, learning period, big learning curve in the beginning. But at this point, we have the right managers in place and the right team to put out a wonderful product.
Okay. So I'm going to put it like this. Let's say I'm fresh to the market. I've just gone to my first cigar shop. I don't know exactly what I'm looking for. We'll stick with your cigar Espanola because the 30th anniversary is coming up. You've been making this particular brand for 30 years. You've come to perfecting the style. Which type of cigar from your company, whether it's Espanola or any of the other names under the rings, what one should I start with?
So if you're a novice smoker who's not really used to smoking the complex, bolder cigars, I definitely would start with a Connecticut wrapper. It's a mild to medium bodied cigar. It's something that will not turn you off on cigars. And what I mean by that is if you pick one of our Corojo blends or our Maduro blends, and if you have it on, for example, empty stomach, your head's going to start spinning. You're going to be nauseous. You're not going to want to have any cigars anymore. So at that point, it's like, what did I do? I don't want to smoke cigars ever again. I don't like this feeling. But if you start with a Connecticut wrapper, you're not going to get that. The nicotine levels are a lot lower on those, and then just the wrapper itself lends to a creamy, smooth taste that is perfect for the beginner smoker.
And one more thing for the novice smoker that just hasn't bought their first humidor yet. How will they be able to keep the tobacco fresh if they haven't gotten to the point of buying it by the box and they're still going stick by stick?
Yeah, Tupperware works great, man. Tupperware works great. You get a paper towel, you rinse it, squeeze all the liquid out of it, put it in a shot glass, put it in a Tupperware, and maybe under the sink would be the best, most humid place in the house. But if you've got that not in the fridge, please don't put the cigars in the fridge. The fridge is just super dry. It's going to pick up flavors from anything you have in the fridge, be it onion, garlic, whatever it is.
As
So
much as we
anywhere
love
you
onions and garlic, we don't want an onion and garlic cigar.
not in a cigar. And yes, we do love our onion and garlic. Um, so anywhere that's kind of humid in the house would be perfect. But yeah, Tupperware, you're starting off. Tupperware with a shot glass and a damp paper towel is going to do the trick. Now, if you notice that your cigars are, I don't know, kind of creating a film on top of it or starting to mold. That means there's obviously way too much moisture in the package. Boveda has a perfect solution for that. Boveda packs they have the percentages of humidity on the packs, and they're two-way systems, which means if it's too humid, it'll take it down to 72, or if it's too dry, it'll take it up to 72, or whatever that number of percentages on the package. So Boveda is a foolproof way to store your cigars, and then Boveda is a humidifying pack. It's a square kind of spongy pack that you put in the cigars, and it's not wet. It won't leak through. You just put it in the Tupperware, and it'll keep your cigars good for a long time.
Beautiful. And so the 30th anniversary, we're going to leave you with this, is coming up. Is there going to be a big celebration? Is there going to be a party where we could buy tickets to come and attend and celebrate with you for the 30th?
Oh, absolutely. So for all the PCA members in 2026, we are going to have a launch party out there, but we are working on other internal and local parties. We're from Los Angeles, so definitely we'll be having some dinners here. And marketing team is putting a teaser package together right now. So coming soon, spring of 2026, we'll have our 30th anniversary Espanola cigars.
Beautiful. And what should I pair the Espanola with?
Ooh, great question. So it depends. I mean, if you're going to have the Connecticut always goes great with some coffee because you can have it in the morning. Bourbon is great for our Corojo or our Maduro line. Some single malt Scotch is always great. And I always say it's whatever you like to drink because some people who drink sparkling water, I say that's phenomenal because you're getting the pure experience of a cigar and not, it's not kind of creating a different flavor in your mouth. You're getting the full experience. And yeah, just, what this is all about is you have an hour to spend, you're going to spend it as you enjoy it. If you're not a bourbon drinker and I say, hey, pair this with bourbon and you're struggling with that bourbon, what's the point?
Right.
So I always say, drink what you like, and just try to enjoy that hour and a half of relaxed time that you have.
And where can we find JM tobacco products, whether in retail stores, directly through the website itself, and also on social media?
Social media, you can follow us at Espanola Cigars and at JM Tobacco. JM Tobacco's handle or Instagram page is more of a company overview, all the offerings that we have. Espanola Cigars is a newer page dedicated just to Espanola cigars. You could find us nationwide. I mean, a quick Google search on our cigars, you'll find many distributors who do sell our product. Cigars International, Famous Smoke, JR Cigars, bestcigarprices.com, just to name a few of our many partners who sell our cigars online. And I'd like to also say, support your brick and mortar family owned operation. Go into the store, ask for JMs, ask for our Espanola cigars. If they don't have it, they will buy it for you.
Anto, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I can't wait till we have our first cigar together,
I love that.
whether over coffee or bourbon or both, depending
Yes,
how long how long we stay throughout the day. I really appreciate your time. jmtobacco.com. Espanola is coming for its 30th anniversary in 2026. And thank you again so much for today.
absolutely, Robert. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, and by the way, we have to give Joanna Lewis a great shout out because she's the reason why we connected, and you are lucky to have her. She's absolutely fantastic.
She's wonderful. She's wonderful. We are lucky to have her. Thank you so much, Robert.